Here's the thing, which we're just saying, hold on. Good morning, comrades. You are listening to WHIVLP New Orleans. This is Thursday's show, so we're going to be doing this on Thursday. We got Jake and Robert in the studio. Hello. What is up, guys? We were just having a conversation in the previous hour about the way that monetary policy works, and we're actually going to change trajectory very dramatically, because we were on our little break. We did a little break in between. We started talking about potentially strategy for people who actually want to see change in the world to engage with the society as it functions and the sort of political framework and structure as it exists. And one of the things I brought up to Jake was my recent experience with the Louisiana Democratic Party Executive Committee in Jefferson Parish, and I was saying that it's a very contested space. It's somewhere that it's almost like you would if you'd seen and again, these are all very nice folks, not necessarily folks I disagree with, but if you saw a local government a caricature on a movie or something like that, it kind of feels like that sometimes.
Your experience being in the
yeah, they would have folks that are showing up. And I live in Jefferson Parish, which is right next door to Orleans. It's sort of a rural area. It's very Republican dominated. So the folks that show up to this sort of committee, this executive committee, which I'm currently on, they're very much do-gooders. They're not necessarily people who are looking like the most ambitious or whatever, and the ones that are pretty easily clockable.
They have they're there because the street light in their neighborhood is out and they want to be yelling about it somewhere.
Or again, shout out to Gilda, who's a friend of the show. We got to get her on here. Gilda Reed, she's been one of my partners in canvassing for Bernie. She's the former chair of that committee. She's one of the people that kind of brought me in and sort of showed me the ropes of how this stuff works. And it's one of these things where you kind of see that people are gonna advocate for what they think that they want to do. But we just had a meeting the other day, and we're on the verge of adopting a 3-point platform of public schools over charter schools, healthcare is a human right, and one job should be enough. Essentially, raising wages for workers, making it easier to get people to get into unions and things like that. One of the things that might not exist in these sort of places that are broken up by these sort of second and third order political forces are these anchors that actually give you a grounding in what people actually need and would benefit from.
Yeah.
And when you see the state level or even the National Democratic Party, that's steps away removed from that.
I remember so the last city council election cycle in Orleans, there was I think it's a lot harder to break in when it's an urban area for fairly obvious reasons. But
especially in the Democratic Party in urban areas.
It's a lot of nepotism and kowtowing and weird political deals behind it. But the real reason that Cantrell made it in is because she was in council long enough to make the kind of friendships that needed to become made.
She built the network.
Yeah. But anyway, there was a guy who came out to there was a housing forum on improving affordable housing, and there was a guy who was genuinely passionate about making sure everybody was in housing. I want to say he might have been Green Party. I don't know at this point. But he was completely shut down by the standing. Actually, it was Jason Williams, and I hate that fucking guy so much. I'm sorry. He shut him down by just being oh, there's always going to be homeless people, and so I'm just
Jason Williams said that.
But there doesn't have to be.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're giving up too much. Either way.
But no, what I was saying, Julie, is I feel in the last just in the last 4 years, honestly, like there's been a huge push for people to get involved in local politics. There's been a huge push to bring the kind of politics that would normally be reserved for national stuff into local spaces, because that's honestly where they should start. I mean, a lot of the people who are in these local Democratic organizations will have careers for the rest of their goddamn.
Right.
And
I think as a part of this too, like part of this was a little bit of a triage for Robert's sort of doomer feelings about how things are going.
Oh yeah, I was saying.
So
I don't find like there's no irony. No, I'm saying I see all the irony of like being in the DSA, and I was like, I'm in the DSA. I've only been in there for a couple years, but I've been I'm all about electoralism. I knocked doors for Obama and Kerry. And,
that's your fault.
And now I'm like, I was a delegate for Sanders in 2016, and I see like there's no irony lost on me that like now the DSA is like, hey, let's try electoralism. I'm like, hey, maybe this voting thing sucks. Maybe this ain't
the
gonna
wrong
work.
people are voting now. Man, the DSA is also a real fascinating story to news me because, like, again, as we're running that left book group that I did on Facebook for so long, like, I interacted with a lot of people of various sects.
Jake was a former moderator of left book groups back in the day. For those who don't remember.
Technically, I'm still moderator. Anyway, but I actually quit Facebook the other day, and I can't remember if that like takes you off of moderator.
It's a stupid website.
But anyway, like the DSA was always mocked for having an electoral position and actually being like
it's a historically electoral organization.
Yeah, no, like anybody else who was of like any slightly further left, like Maoists, like Third Worldists, anybody who was just like a general syndicalist kind of communist, like we all hated the DSA because specifically we thought they were fools who were going to get co-opted by the Democrat Party.
Right. Which isn't necessarily wrong.
Yes.
A lot of people in the DSA think that too.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. So I think timeline's important for this. So the DSA was founded in like the 1980s. Yeah. Like Michael Harrington was was very much of that perspective that you were just talking about. He's Michael Harrington's one of the founders of the DSA. And it was like he was coming from that perspective of like electoralism first, everything. And again, people are gonna.
Really? I didn't know that.
I'm gonna get shit about this because of the framing I'm putting towards it, but like, essentially electoralism was a key component in creating a social democratic world, right?
Yeah.
And that's sort of what was derided by these sort of more radical, or I mean, I say that with advisedly. I don't say just like radical or whatever. These people have come from different perspectives that are less electoral in a sense. But I would say this, that the growth of DSA, I actually kind of don't know why that happened. And I'm actually kind of open to maybe even addressing that question in a...
I don't know either, but I'm saying I'm not like big on DSA history, but I always heard like it's been kind of like a hostile takeover.
Oh, yeah, totally. It's a different organization because so the DSA blew up.
Yeah.
In 2016, right after the Trump election, and for whatever reason, the organization blew from a 5,000 member organization to a 50,000 member organization to a 70,000 member organization. And it's on, well, I'm not exactly sure what the numbers are these days because I'm not as close to it. And full disclosure, I remember the DSA, so is Robert. But essentially, like, why was DSA the group that benefited so much from that growth? And that's the question that I'm interested in. Was it the Dank memes? Was it like Capo Trap House said?
Honest to God, like that.
The
I wouldn't
Break2
discount that.
podcasts. I mean, I think the DSA is willing. The DSA is one of the least dogmatic.
Yeah, very flexible.
Yeah, they're willing to have a big tent of like various leftish type people, and I think that is 100% what works. Maoists will not accept you if you don't accept China. Like the DSA will accept you if you don't accept China. That's strictly
right. The idea of, I suppose, a democratic organization, which again, democratic organizations are in a sense. Fundamentally flexible, almost definitionally so, and based off of that ability to grow in size, they're able to when when they can sort of align and internally organize, they can project that power, right? As opposed to organizations that come from a potentially a more specific, I don't want to say marginal, but a more specific perspective.
Yeah. Well, I think so. Communists of all stripes, and this is may be more my experience, but I feel like it's a pretty common experience. We are leftists, but we want things to get done, and like
That's
it's
important.
cool. It's cool to like post cool memes about like shit and like talk down against capitalism and score on people on Twitter and stuff.
Dun.
But like at the end of the day, a lot of communists are just frustrated with their specific groups and ability to actually get shit done. Like I gotta like, this is what I hope is. I mean, going towards the future, that we do see more stuff being put together. But in terms of like leftism back in not too long ago, like 5 years ago or so, it really was a lot of like these groups who were just really angry at each other and not getting anything done.
Yeah, they fought each other more than they fought the capitalists.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
They still do.
That is the thing, though. I think you're right about that.
Yeah.
Like what the DSA doesn't do is they don't kind of like circle. They don't have like a circular firing squad, at least on each other, like different leftist groups. But it's like DSA isn't a ten. Like I've heard there's even like in some DSA chapters there's like a libertarian wing, and I'm like, what?
No, libertarian socialist,
How
it's
does that
basically
even
anarchist.
work? But yeah, you're right though. Like a lot of people, there's a lot of leftists with some weird. I got some weird thoughts about weird things like North Korea and China.
I think a fundamental component of why DSA is able to have some kind of carry within society, whether or not it's it could go forward in a certain sense, in a coherent way. I would like to think that it could, just to put that on the record. But the fact that the sort of like democratic component promotes a certain amount of sociality, like a certain mutual understanding and coexistence that doesn't exist in those sort of more narrowly defined sectoral organizations.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the genius moves that DSA has done too is like programs like the tailgate light,
The brake lights,
just any other kind of programs where they actually show up and they go out and they do something good and nice for folks. And like the thing about like Maoists is they'll do stuff like the Red Guards Austin, and they'll all drill with guns for a minute in the woods or something. And then
that's gonna hit your seven people out there every week or whatever.
Hey, but that's alright. Just good skills.
Yeah, no,
I'm not against necessarily even gun training.
Yeah.
I mean, the U.S. military gets more than 7 people, doesn't it?
It's just that's like a hard sell. Like you get the cultists to come out and do that, but you can't necessarily get like new people who they show up to the brake light thing and they're like, hey, I want to do this next week. This was.
It's
nice
very
to do this for me.
accessible.
Right.
Like I was thinking about
my father, who's like
My father.
centrist normie. Like he even knows about the brake light clinic. Like, and he's like, oh, you're a part of that? That's amazing.
Yeah.
Nice.
Wow. Well, that's really cool. You keep doing stuff like that.
Yeah.
Tough like that.
Kinda. That's how all neoliberals talk.
Oh, okay.
No, what was I saying? Shoot, I've lost my train of thought.
So gun training with Maoists.
Yeah.
The Red Guard. There's only 7 people that do it. Brake light clinics are more accessible.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff going on.
Like what? Did that get you back on track?
No, I think I was going somewhere with this. The
direct service component is one of the things that, again, it does draw criticism from across like different strains within DSA, which is essentially like saying that what you're doing is not politics. But I think that, and again, like, I don't want to
my guy, slapping a bumper sticker on somebody's car after you've changed their brake light that says the socialist fix my brake light is absolutely political.
I don't want to
be talking about.
Yeah, and I don't want to oversell I've been a member for DSA New Orleans for several years now, and I'm very proud of it. I don't want to seem like I'm just doing propaganda for DSA New Orleans, but I think the fact that you're you're doing a public service and you have an analysis of that kind of hits people in a very direct way. So the idea of people not getting kit, not having kit, on their car is a excuse for people to get pulled over. That's a critical component, right?
Yeah, you can start talking about how it's unfair for the government to.
And yeah, to just pull people over for their brake lights out or whatever. But in addition to that, it does. So as Robert was saying a moment ago, and you were saying as well, it allows an easy first step for people to do something with an organization for the first time, and that can introduce them to an entirely new world wherein they can sort of experience the more labor-oriented component, which is where I would encourage people to go. So like if you wanted to get people into,
you can do that with your workplace.
Yeah. And it's a very easy first step to get involved with an organization. And that's also kind of maybe not to the same extent, but like that's another way that people who are campaigning, for Bernie Sanders right now, like it's a good first thing to go to where you don't have a whole lot of questions as far as what to expect that you're going to be expected of you, what you're expected to go and do, and the people that you're going to be meeting with. There's ways that are essentially safe to bring people in.
That's exactly what Erin says. If Erin was here right now, she would say something to the fact of like, I'm a social worker. I work like 60 plus hours a week. I do so much emotional labor. She's like, I don't have time for a million meetings. Just tell me where to be and tell me what to do and I'll do it. And I think that's what a lot of people need. Like a lot of people, I've said it 1,000 times. I mean, I'm cribbing this from somebody else. Like, don't trust a socialist who enjoys meetings too much.
Yeah. I mean, it's a really insular world, really. When it comes down to it, like you have to accept certain premises. There's a lot of reinforcement of those same premises. I don't know. It's something where like it's hard to translate any of that into action in the first place. So. I wouldn't say the DSA is necessarily the only structure it could possibly be out of it, but it's one of the more successful ones just because it's I don't know, you build a big tent out of leftists instead of having a big tent of Democrats who try to sort of have leftists in them. I think it's a better idea overall.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's like that's why I joined the DSA, and like I've dabbled around in other leftist organizations, and it's like I joined the DSA because they actually do things.
Yeah. And
I mean, it sounds real shitty when I talk about like, oh, other organizations aren't doing things, but yeah, like.
I mean, they'll sell you your newsletter, and they'll put out like papers everywhere in the city. They'll graffiti stuff. That's always fun. Paste boarding, you can have some propaganda somewhere up in the middle.
I love propaganda.
But no, like, I don't know. I'm not actually a member of the DSA, I should say. I just give money sometimes. I don't know. Despite being a member of a lot of organizations, I don't really appreciate being a member of organizations. It's really nice. Every time I talk to a DSA person, too, they're really nice about it. Like, oh, yeah, I'm an anarchist. I don't like other things or whatever. And they're like, oh, we got anarchists in here. They come out into the meetings. I'm like, well, do they disrupt your authority over these meetings? I don't know.
We're not following Robert's fucking rules, and where we're going, there are no roads.
Yeah.
Okay, like, can we talk about that for a sec? Like,
sure.
For the people who are listening to the show, like I think they're already on board, but like, for somebody who like just stumbles across this or this gets shared with somebody who's like a normie or like on their journey away to be radicalized, like, what is an anarchist? I don't think that like really gets. Because you hear like when people say, my wife is the same way, and I think I was in high school, and then somebody finally kind of explained it to me. But my wife, until maybe like I set her down, like, no, this isn't really what they're talking about. You say anarchy, she thinks it's Beyond Thunderdome. She thinks it's Mad Max.
Oh man, it's great. Yeah, you just wear S&M gear and just blow shit up. That's fantastic. No, I make that joke a lot. It's actually nothing like that.
Right.
The basis of my anarchism, I don't know. I can't really necessarily speak for everyone, but it's basically just a rejection of the. It's a rejection of authority. I don't believe there's like a legitimate authority in the world. I think all power is illegitimate. Essentially, I don't think anybody really necessarily has.
Would you say illegitimate, or would you say it's just there's structures that we agree on? Or that's now. I'm not talking about actual. I'm talking about in theory, not practice.
I mean,
I don't agree to pay my taxes so they can be used to kill people in foreign lands, to drone the shit out of people. But I'm like, in theory, though, we should all be like collective, like, no, we don't want our money or taxes or our politicians to do this, so therefore they're not doing that.
No, I mean, I
Like-
totally agree with that. I think if you can build the consensus, it is a more legitimate sort of power. I think the problem is, at the end of the day, in order to exercise power, you are going to take away the consent of somebody.
Sure.
Like, somebody is going to say that, I don't agree with this, I don't actually want to give...
Two wolves in the sheep,
Yeah.
asking each other what's for dinner.
Yeah. It's, and I don't, the anarchism thing is more of, this is like my ultimate ideal. Like I'm very pragmatic about all this because I recognize that this is definitely not an easy sell. But like so I mean, yeah, I would prefer democratic socialism. I would prefer communism. I just feel like
Really?
at the end of the day, I'm going to be against the communist government too, because like I don't necessarily think that other people have any real legitimate standing to tell other people what to do.
When you say I just want to get this real clear. When you say you would prefer communism or DemSoc or just straight up socialism, do you mean to
Capitalism.
to capitalism, not to anarchy? Okay. So I mean, just like what would that look like? I mean, the idea that's been floated to me is just like free movement of people, because we already have free movement of capital.
Mm-hmm.
Like there would definitely be open borders. Like you wouldn't need a passport.
Well, so I think the ideal like for
Like, what would that look like in practice?
So like okay, so
I know it's a
look at
broad,
Star
but
Wars.
just-
I mean, not Star Wars. Jesus Christ. Star Trek.
Okay,
Yeah,
I love
there's a
Star
Star
Trek.
Wars person literally in this
I
room.
know.
Anyway.
That's weird. That's like a universe, a
Yeah.
world, like controlled by like narcissistic and also cynical, like narcissistic space knights, space wizards versus like cynical liberal space wizards.
No,
And I just want them all dead.
The actual
Hate
like,
Star Wars. I love Star Wars, but I hate Star. I would not. That's the universe I would not want to live in.
yeah,
I
I
want
feel
all
like
Jedi.
the universe breaks down like the minute you start thinking
definitely
really
sick.
about it. Like it's
Yeah.
like the history, the political history of Star Wars is just like a whole shit ton of like turmoil built on like these people who are naturally more powerful and naturally better
Right.
than you. And you have essentially no recourse against the Sith Empire, as has been demonstrated, like by just having Palpatine being like, I'm gonna destroy all of the Republic, and then I'm gonna do it again,
But then the other side, you've got these like I would say neoliberal Jedi Knights who are just like, yeah, we have all this power to like change and
They
shape the
became
universe,
cops.
and we
They're
just don't
cops.
want to do anything.
Yeah.
We're like, oh no, that'd be too much, too
Yeah.
wrong, too. It's like because horseshoe theory. That's their whole fucking thing. Is
Yeah.
horseshoe theory.
Pretty much, I
Fuck
think
that.
it's another one of those series where, I think people want a satisfying arc out of it, so they're like, oh yeah, everybody's bad. That's somehow is a good pitch to a lot of people. I don't understand.
It's stupid, but I do like the Rise of Resistance ride. I read that.
Um,
It's really good. But Star Wars.
Uh,
I mean Star Trek.
But yeah, Star Trek. So the basic idea where everybody has the ability to. Have you been watching Picard, by the way? I don't know.
No, because people say it's bad.
Why do they say it?
I don't
so
know.
They're mad.
I just don't want to resubscribe to CBS is what it is. So I'm just like,
That's
it's
fine.
like Aesop's.
No, my wife works
Cognate
at CBS
dissonance.
actually.
Oh, nice, nice.
Anyway, but no, it's like a murder mystery, and like people are mad because like it's a lot more dramatic than Star Trek ever was.
Mhm.
It's like it's a murder mystery, and like there's an adventure. They get together a crew of messy people who aren't all necessarily all that competent. Just
Okay.
it's fun. But
I'll give it a whirl.
but anyway, so one of the characters in that show is a lady who basically she worked with Starfleet with Picard. She ended up leaving Starfleet with Picard because they had like the same. She essentially became a conspiracy theorist with justification because it was a TV show about an event that happened where Starfleet covered up a false flag essentially.
Sure.
This is all in like the first episode, so I'm not spoiling too much. But she lived out in the desert like on her own. Like she's completely ostracized from society. Like they fired her and like she can't get a job anywhere. But she still lives just fine in like a modular house somewhere in Arizona. Like it's fairly decent standard of living. She's got food. She's got water. She doesn't have to talk to anybody.
Right.
Like Picard shows up, of course, to pick her up to go off on the adventure. But, so this is the sort of thing I think about, like a future where there is no scarcity, so there's no real necessary reason to interact with anybody else. You have all the things that you need, and nobody can necessarily tell you what to do. You still end up with like the structures of Starfleet that can in fact do some horrible things, and there's space war and crap. But it's the idea is I feel like the underpinning of society needs to be one that doesn't have so much of like not so many laws and control and where you can live and what you can do with your time and
Okay.
so on and such.
So I think is like staying with that analogy though, to get like you said a very important thing, like we're post like resource scarcity, which I don't believe like even in the real world like we don't have resource scarcity. It's just how they're
We don't know.
distributed.
We've
At
done
all.
such an amazing job in the last like.
But wouldn't that take like collectivism to get to that point where you could
Oh,
like
absolutely. Yeah, we need to build an alternate form of, again, so this is still illegitimate power as far as I'm concerned, but it's an alternate form to the even more illegitimate power of capital. Like it's something where we need to build up enough folks to challenge the existing paradigm, and then hopefully replace it with something that's less bad. The thing that I always point out too, and
I think you diffused my like cheeky.
Yeah, fair
You
enough.
knew where I was going. I
No,
was
no,
gonna be like,
I
this
maybe
sounds
they're
like
gonna
a
laugh,
state.
Yeah, no.
Sounds like a state you're building.
No, so I think one of the ideas behind Marx is that the society would move through these patterns, which is incidentally actually like an absolutely terrible societal analysis. It shows up a lot in academia, but the fact is like you cannot guarantee the society is going to go any one way or another. You can't actually say that there will be definitely a progression from capitalism to socialism and so forth. There's nothing to prove that with anyway. But anyhow, but the idea is that eventually, so the socialism was like the between step between capitalism and communism, and like socialism would be the government controlling everything, and then the people control the government, and then eventually socialism would fade away. They would slowly cede more and more power to the people, and then the people would basically govern themselves in like various communes. The thing about Marx is that he was inspired by a lot of.
Okay, stop again.
Oh, go ahead, sorry.
Okay, so the people would govern themselves in
Yeah.
various communes.
And
Again, that
was,
sounds like a little state.
No, so the commune thing made more. It was so the thing about Marx is that he was inspired by a bunch of ethnographic work that had come out like recently. Like people had gone out and decided to treat natives as like something to study instead of something to subjugate.
Right.
He wasn't an anthropologist.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. But so he kept like reading about these tribal societies which had had egalitarian societies. They had not a lot of the same problems that we do. Like if somebody got too rich, the rest of the tribal members would just go take a shit. You know, like it was, so it's so Marx was writing it towards like, oh, you know, eventually I think we're going to be moving back to that. We're going to have a society where we basically live in tribes and everybody's can take care of themselves.
But it wouldn't stop there either, though.
Yeah.
Again, I mean, tell me I'm wrong.
Mhm.
That just sounds like people living by arbitrary rules that they've decided on, and that sounds like a state.
What's not arbitrary?
Well, I mean, just like if us three people in this room, if we're totally independent of, let's say we're now.
Are we sovereign citizens?
Yeah, we're now. This is Mr. Show is a sovereign nation. If you guys know that reference, you're old. But like, if we do that and we make rules in this sovereign nation, we've just created a state.
Well, so what it is that then you have the freedom to just walk away and go live somewhere else.
Okay.
So you live in
Okay.
and you can do that
That makes
without
sense.
compromising your ability to.
The first principles?
Yeah, you still have food, you still have a house.
Right.
I mean, because as it is now, like the way.
I think governing principles are sort of necessary once you get a certain capacity of people
Yes.
that are involved in anything,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah, if people agree and they want to live in a city, I mean, they probably should agree to rules and they should have some democratic control over the rules.
Correct. Well, that's a critical component of it that you don't have. I think the big difference, and again, I'm jumping into the conversation
No, you're fine.
way, but like one of the critical components is the amount of equality that exists within that system of rules, and when when that equality or that inequality rather gets so far away. This is sort of like my rooting and understanding of Marx, and I'm not like a scholar of it or anything like of Marx or anything,
Mhm.
but my understanding is that like once you hit critical points of inequality in society, especially when that inequality is based off of something that is not a commodity, which is something that has value, sort of like innately, or something, or labor, which is something that imbues value into a commodity, then what you have is sort of this capital trading, which is sort of derivative of those two things, right? And once that level of inequality gets so high, that's when you have collapses or revolutions.
And I know this is like different. Like I know what you're saying about the levels of inequality, but it's just like to break it down to its base. Like, so in my house, I have 2 cats, a rabbit, and a small dog.
Nice.
They all live together in the house, and they don't have to worry about resource scarcity because we're feeding them and watering them. They all know they're going to get fed. But they have still created a little rule system for themselves. A little like, don't go over here when I'm here.
Yeah.
Too close to me. They
Yeah,
still
so-
created
Yeah, the
this.
stakes aren't just life and death, though.
Right. But I'm like, that's when you get organisms together. Don't even have to be sentient. Like that's just like
People naturally
that's what
organize.
they do.
Yeah.
I just think the necessary quality here though is that like the having those people together needs to be voluntary. It needs to have to it has to be something that you have decided that you want to do, and you decide that you want to respect those rules. And if you don't want to respect those rules, you leave. It's a lot of kind of the same thing as having a relationship with somebody. You figure out what you can compromise on, and if you can't, either of you walk away. Like it's.
Or you just put up with it.
No, I'm buying that because if we could flatten,
You can the Earth is already flat, okay?
flatten like
The power.
everybody's resources, like you said, we've already created. We've got it's Star Trek. We got to think.
If you already base it in the assumption that everyone has the ability to survive on their own.
Yes. Then totally, I'm completely fine with that. I get you.
Yeah, I mean.
But we don't have that ability at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like so that is my end goal ideologically. Like anything that gets us slightly closer to that, I'm for essentially.
Right.
I'm not a all or nothing anarchist really.
No, and we're not trying to like saying you're a fake anarchist. Or
No,
anything like that.
I just
It's
we
just
got
like
into this. I just wanted people not to be when somebody comes into their in their circle.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Well, there's a lot
It's
of
like
it.
I'm an
Yeah,
anarchist.
people
I don't
are
want people to be like,
considering,
oh
I
God.
want to kill the monarchy, so I shot
Franz Ferdinand.
Prince Ferdinand. Yeah,
Yeah, Gavrilo.
that kind of anarchism was fun. That was the start of illegalism, where people were just like, yeah, break laws,
Break
it's
laws,
good.
crimes,
be
yeah.
gay, do
So,
crimes.
yeah, anyway, break laws, everybody.
We can say that. Also give to our Patreon.
Okay, don't break all laws.
Every
Break
law.
the bad laws.
There ain't no laws when you're giving to our Patreon.
Ain't no claws. Ain't no laws when you're drinking claws.
Good morning, comrade.
Patreon.com/Good Morning Comrade. That's how
Yeah.
you can also check us out on
Appreciate
Twitter at
it.
Comrade Morning. We really do need to get like gear.
We have a little bit of cash.
Yeah, let's make it
in the
happen.
kitty. Yeah, so
We're getting a kitten. A kitten?
No.
Oh
But,
man, that would be
Full
cool.
disclosure, I donate to the show.
Hey.
That's why I need. No, it's good.
Nice.
You're one of the
Trying to
you're
fix that.
one of the 5 best people in the world.
Yeah.
We got more now. We got like 8 now. Or something.
Oh man,
No, we do have a little bit of cash, so we're gonna start getting.
gear.
Yeah, we just gotta find a union printer. That's all.
We have one.
Oh,
Anyway,
there we go.
so let's keep it going forward.
I keep giving you those sticker links. You should use them, man.
Yeah. Well, I printed a GMC sticker. It's on our wall of our studio at this point. But we definitely should do a little bit of something like that.
Yeah.
I also think we should do some video streaming. I don't know.
Yeah.
Robert's not for it, but I'm for it.
A lot of work.
Either way, let's talk about this. So here's the problem, and this is the problem with the way this show is set up for today, because it's currently Monday, and this show is going to go out on Thursday.
Yeah.
So in the time between, Tuesday is going to have Mississippi, Michigan, Washington, and what other state?
Wait, you already said Mississippi. Missouri.
Missouri. So
Yeah.
so 2 of those states are very Midwest.
Yeah.
Missouri and Michigan.
Yeah.
Washington is Pacific Northwest state, and Mississippi is a deep south, our next door neighbors. They all have primaries tomorrow, and I was looking at the polls yesterday. Looks bad for you, boy.
Yeah.
What's going to happen tomorrow? Or what's going to have happened on Tuesday?
You'll know, but we don't.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I will say this. If we can make it so that we get to an actual debate with, like, heads up, Biden versus Bernie,
Yeah.
the game changes.
Mm. Yeah.
I don't know, dude. This is where I gotta put my doomer hat on. They're just gonna protect that dude. They're gonna let him
Yeah.
sit down and
Let him
get a
sit.
shot of, and get an espresso and
As long as he
call him
shows up, who
breaks.
gives a shit,
and
man?
It's gonna be. I don't know.
What I'm interested in is the Bernie Sanders official Twitter account used to be a lot nicer. How do I phrase that in a better way? Basically, they've been doing a good job of actually hammering Joe Biden on some of Joe Biden's specific weaknesses in a way
Like
that-
dementia.
Yeah.
Not just dementia, though.
But that's what sticks.
Social
No,
Security
a lot of the
and
Social
Medicare,
Security,
the
we've been
tax
talking
on
about
Social
that
Security and
constantly.
Medicare,
That's the
biggest
thing we
thing.
talked about this like in our little break is that y'all were like, we just need somebody that's meaner, and I'm totally agree with that because I'm sorry, I'm a total cynic. Like Bernie's 100% right about all his policies. You know, it's
Yeah,
like
people don't
we need
care about
Medicare for all.
policies.
People are
They
just
need
dumb.
them.
They're just
Yeah.
like they're dumb, and they need red meat that they can sink their dumb little heads around.
Oh, I'm dumb. So
And
I
it's
wanna
just
read
like-
it.
Don't do it.
You know what does that is Joe Biden has dementia.
Yeah.
And it's true. It's not even a lie. Like,
He's all red meat.
so that's what they should have been pounding, months ago instead of trying to take the
It
high
should have
road.
been, it should have been the first thing reaction to like the consolidation right before Super Tuesday. Would have been like every bad thing about Joe Biden should have just been on that
Yeah.
Twitter. I mean, it's one of those things where like I get why, and I get that he ran a nice campaign for a while, and also he had like 15 opponents. So, I mean, I think for a while they were talking about Buttigieg a lot more. But
Who is a like literal space alien from a
yeah,
pod?
Yeah.
Who's grown in a lab to run for president.
So like I'm interested though to see that the Twitter has taken at least a somewhat more aggressive tack than it has before, but I can't say that's necessarily gonna be enough. It's hard to say.
It might be too late.
I don't think it's over on Tuesday though.
No,
Well,
I think he's still gonna be down by like 100 or something. It'll be still in play for a while.
Yeah.
Like
100? Do you think it's only 100?
So
If he's only down by 100 delegates on
I mean,
Wednesday, I'll do a backflip because that leaves all the other states wide open. And I know he's bad like in Florida, and I know all that. But like at post debate, if they make him stand up and he just like has an aneurysm on stage, I mean,
Biden.
I'm not even joking about that. Like we cannot elect this guy.
no.
Like there's actually a conversation to be had. Would it be better to have like a centrist that's lost their mind, or like a clown fascist who has some like mental faculties left? There's a conversation there.
It's legitimate that it's possible it may be easier to organize under a Trump presidency than it would be under the Biden one. No.
I mean, and before we get anything, we're like, I'll be an accelerationist, and don't you understand? Like, yeah, we live in New Orleans. We live in New Orleans where climate change is going to
No matter
put
who
this
I vote
city
for,
underwater
yeah.
in probably 20 years. Okay, so yeah, we get it. Like, we totally get it. My wife's a social worker. You know, I used to work with people with traumatic brain injuries who are on Medicaid. Yeah, I definitely get it. And I'm also black, so don't hand me that I don't understand. Like, I know what we're up against, but we really have to like look it in the face and be like, what are we gonna game this stuff out? Like, what are we gonna do?
Can we force Biden to do anything? I feel like Biden as a president is just going to be a figurehead, and it's just going to be the handful of people.
Yeah, he'll put in his Jamie Dimon, and he'll put in his Michael Bloomberg, and Elizabeth Warren will get nothing.
The Easter egg role.
Yeah.
He'll bring back the Easter egg role.
That's
Like
the thing.
fucking-
He's gonna literally just have a rubber stamp.
How funny is that though? Like Judas even got 30 pieces of silver.
But he's not gonna win.
Elizabeth
Yeah.
Warren's getting nothing.
With this financial crisis, I feel like he actually does have a chance, which is terrifying.
Really? How does that work?
I mean,
Just a change from the bad time that's happening right now.
Who's voting for that though?
well, all the rich people are going to be like, oh shit, I'm losing all my money under Trump. I'm gonna support Biden now.
Nah, but there's more like poor workers that supported Trump that are gonna support him again over
Yeah.
Biden.
They did during the.
That is kind of
debates.
the thing. Like once the actual, you can prop up whoever you want to prop up, and so you can hide people with dementia. You can tell whatever story you want to tell. But the thing is, everybody only gets one vote.
Mhm.
So
Well, I get. No.
you get plenty. You vote early and vote often.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I mean, Michael Bloomberg gets one vote, and so does some guy who works at the last
Well, see,
GM
they
plant
don't
in
count mail-in
Michigan.
ballots, so you might as well do it twice. Do crimes, everybody.
I'm just
Do not do crimes.
really dooming on this.
Yeah.
Just really torn up about it.
Yeah.
I don't know. We were talking about this earlier too, but my sort of, and I think you agree with me, but maybe not. The Sanders movement, win, lose, or draw. There is, and there are, and there will be networks of organization that will succeed the Sanders campaign.
No, absolutely. As I was saying this, like when we were not on the radio, like
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
the base of support that Sanders has in 2020 is so much larger than 2016. It appeared larger in 2016 specifically because everybody hates Hillary Clinton. It's just a fact of life.
I'm sorry. Have you watched her new documentary series?
She said that. Yeah, she said he hadn't had a job until he was.
Have you listened to her podcast?
No, I've avoided all Hillary type things. Like a.
We might have to do a.
Nope, not
Sorry,
doing that.
you won't do it.
Nope,
but I
fuck
will.
that.
Look, I have a fascination
Not
with Hillary
critiquing
Clinton.
that.
So.
Don't
Go
give
to
a
the
fuck.
polls. That's
But
what-
anyway, yeah. So there is a certain component of opposition to Hillary Clinton that sort of was the spark here.
Yeah.
But it caught on with the message that Sanders was putting forward, which
Absolutely.
was
And-
Medicare for all, which is, workers deserve some kind of freaking
Absolutely.
dignity.
And like it's just been. I mean, we spent the last 4 years just watching more and more people having to go to GoFundMe is because they don't have any money and they don't have any
Yeah.
insurance.
Yeah,
Something
the
that's
society
gonna
has deteriorated only further in the past 4 years, and it doesn't show any signs of slowing down. If Sanders doesn't win, which, I mean, again, let's not rule it out. Joe
I
Biden's
still think he
mind
has a
might
chance.
pop in a moment, or
Yeah.
we might get a surprise like we did last time in Michigan.
Yeah.
That is another sort of like, and I can go in a couple directions with the conversation, but like one of the ways that I actually think that it is important to consider is that you never know what opportunities will be available until they present themselves.
No, definitely. One of the things that I find really challenging for electoralism in general, but politics right now too, is that a lot of people make political analysis. It's all essentially like post facto explanations for what already happened. It's rationalization.
Yeah, it's it's looking in the rearview mirror as opposed to looking through the windshield.
So people say these things like, oh, of course, the thing that really gets me is that they used to say that the first 3 states, the people who win that are definitely going on to win the nomination. Nobody says that anymore just because.
Right. Bernie won the first 3 states.
Yeah, Bernie won the first 3 states. It's really naked bias in there, but anyway.
It's a form of propaganda. Is what it is.
Essentially, yeah. It's at the end of the day, like what happens will be what was always going to happen.
Yeah.
For a lot of folks who do these kind of political analyses, like it was one of the things.
Of course, you didn't see that coming.
Like 538, like that guy constantly pulls back his I predicted a
Nate Silver.
28% chance of Trump winning.
That dude is that is the biggest grifter out of all of them. That dude is such a grifter.
He just says whatever's in the moment. Like
Came on sports. 530 is a
people
sports
forget
betting
that stuff.
website.
And he sucked at that.
Yeah, he sucked at that, and then
Yeah.
people think it's some kind of political.
It's amazing. He got March
That's a
Madness
question.
ranked.
So actually, in the society that we live in, that is, very friendly to grifters and the sort of like commodification of ideas.
Everybody
which
wants
is
to know
sort
what's coming next. So.
Right, everybody wants to come. So he basically is like, I've punched all my numbers into the spreadsheet. press the process button,
Mhm.
and that's what it says.
Mhm.
Y'all have to look at me. He's basically just a fortune teller.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, it's not just. I think.
How
you're
is he
touching-
different than Miss Cleo? Is my question. How is Nate Silver different than Miss Cleo?
I think you're touching on like a whole thing that I.
In fact, Miss Cleo is much more of a legitimate person
Hey, this
and
goes back to the
professional.
illegitimacy of authority here. Anyway.
Oh, okay.
I'm not going there, but like, but I suppose like the fact that it takes a lot more bullshit
Mhm.
for Nate Silver to even like concoct his reality. He has to base it in the sort of language of the times, which is
Yeah, you see, I got a computer,
scientification.
I got an algorithm.
Yeah, that's the way we talk right now is in science, right?
Yeah.
And so he's basically saying, well, I've done all of the science,
Yeah.
and I've crunched all of the maths and the numbers, and I've done the things, and I've put them in the spreadsheet,
Yeah.
and that's all of things that are sort of like socially signified as like legitimate.
Yeah, he's smart. He knows stuff.
But
Yeah.
that's the thing I think you're touching on is that what I just feel gas the fuck lit all the time.
That's the
is
whole
that-
point.
Oh yeah.
Is that we live in this age of technology should be holding people like instantly accountable, but because the
Nate
news
Silver is a
cycle,
Bitcoin.
the news cycle moves so fast, they don't care. They just ignore
Right.
it. Like you can be like a quote unquote professional wrong person all the fucking time, and no one will call you out on it. I had somebody on.
Chris Matthews is retired now.
I
so-
know, right? I had somebody right now, like, just the shit they'll just ignore, like, on a Twitter byline. I mean, not byline, but just like on the timeline. Somebody told me that, oh, y'all are so dirty with these snake emojis. Snake emojis came from nowhere.
Mhm.
Like that net, like they're like all of a
Those are
sudden,
there, too.
all of a sudden, Elizabeth Warren just started getting snake emojis for no reason.
Yeah.
So there's one memory hole. The second was like y'all were so dirty with these snake emojis. 2 weeks ago, I didn't hear anybody from Bernie's campaign or any of his supporters online talking about poor people or economics
Bro.
or global. I go, are you fucking for real? And you can like
His entire
show them.
career.
You could show them their own fucking tweets to their face, or show them their own like on video some saying some bullshit. Like Hillary Clinton. You just mentioned Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton will sit here as close as you are to me and tell you some bullshit about how Bernie Sanders didn't support her.
Yeah.
And then
didn't
you
even
can
have
hold
a
up the
meeting.
letter that she fucking wrote and
Yeah.
says, "Thank you so much for coming, for doing 39 fucking rallies for me." And she'll be like, "I don't understand. What's the big deal?"
Yeah, I feel like a lot of these
It's
systems
what?
absolutely
Sensory overload in a sense.
Or
It's a sensory
welling.
overload.
Yeah, they
Or-
rely on people forgetting stuff really quickly, which people do, and that's bad actually. Like the Nate Silver, anytime he's wrong, I mean, it's just not gonna. You
Yep,
know, it's
just
just like,
roll
oh, I
right
was
through.
wrong once. Just don't think about it very hard.
Or you don't even acknowledge it. You just
yeah,
sort of like
you
move
just
to the
kind of
next
pass over it
prediction.
onto the next thing. Yeah.
It's the exact same thing as a horoscope that happens
Mhm.
in the newspaper.
Yeah. I was just saying, oh, well, you know, yesterday's horoscope was wrong. You know, today's horoscope might be better. Who knows?
Hmm.
We'll find out.
Yeah, that's jeez. To go back a little bit, though, the other sort of thing that I thought was interesting is sort of this like Sanders formation is there is a genuine activation, and we were talking about this off the air too, an activation of people who are in sort of
Labor unions.
labor circles and maybe even like electoral circles, or maybe they would not have been there prior, but they've sort of found their legs in the fact that this campaign developed and kind of like shot up out of nowhere. There is something that is coming from this, win, lose or draw, where people will be stepping up. Specifically, I'm sympathetic to the labor. I mean, to the electoral side of it, but specifically the labor side of it, where people who didn't know that you could, start organizing people within your union, or
Yeah.
didn't know that you can, engage with labor unions if you're not necessarily in one, but you have associations or in showing solidarity, doing volunteer work or whatever. There are ways that people who, and this is win, lose or draw, people know how to engage, be they with an organization like DSA, or be they be independently, or whatever. There's a lot more opportunities, or there's a lot more space for people to kind of step into that kind of work than there was prior to not just 2016, but probably much more so after the second time in 2020 or 20. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think a big part of that is having a candidate who comes out with these really popular policies, and then watching the union that you're technically a part of support the moderate. And I
Right.
think that happened a
The-
lot in 2016, and it still happened a lot in 2020. Not as much.
It's more understandable in 2016 though.
Yeah.
Right? Because there was this sort of
Yeah.
so to kind of like rewind.
Right.
And I'm not making an excuse for it. I'm just saying this is what happened. Because I was there and I was mad about it.
Yeah.
But in 2016, a lot of the unions, including my own, which is the American Federation of Teachers, and look, I'm not gonna like be biased. I am gonna be biased. I'm gonna be very open about that. But I'm not gonna like hide the fact that I am not gonna say anything bad about unions or
Yeah.
my union or my local or anything like that on the radio.
Yeah,
Ever.
that's right.
Period. The
Totally.
end.
Uh-huh.
But there was a questionable decision based in the eyes of a lot of members where the leadership of the American Federation of Teachers, the executive council voted to support Hillary Clinton in like August of 2015. It was
super-
way
like,
before,
yeah.
and there wasn't even sort of
No deliberation.
an opportunity for membership to get involved.
Yeah.
And I will say that one step that's been taken might have been because Hillary lost in the general election, and it might have been in part because membership was so mad at leadership at that point. But there was a change in approach in 2020 where there was at least the idea where membership, like there was the acknowledgement that membership mattered.
Yeah.
And that's a step in a positive direction. You know, whatever you feel about, you know, Randy Weingarten and AFT Executive Council leadership, whatever.
No,
and there's a lot of locals that went for Bernie Sanders, which is a big, like that was unthinkable in 2016.
Yeah. No, I think the big part of it is just that before, and it's the same reason that Bernie Sanders has talked a lot about getting big turnout numbers from folks who have otherwise checked out of politics, is that for so many years, like definitely for all of my lifetime, like people just kind of assumed that politicians were going to be grifters, and they assumed that none of them would ever have like a decent idea.
You expect better than John Kerry? Are you crazy?
Man, yeah, like and it's wild to me because like Howard Dean was not even that much better, but still. But yeah,
He definitely he was a better grifter than John Kerry.
yeah.
Well, I guess he wasn't because he didn't.
But like
he didn't
having such a public figure and having someone with the integrity that Bernie Sanders has out there saying the right things about, you know, progressive movements, about fighting for stuff, really has, I think, changed the game. It changed the game in 2016. That's why we see a lot of folks in the DSA, as we were talking about earlier. But it's definitely changed the game this year, 2020, and it will change the game in the future. Like people just needed really an example of a politician who wasn't a grifter.
Right.
Essentially.
Well, and it's also coming off of Obama, who presented himself extremely as not a grifter.
I voted for Obama specifically in the war, and I was one of the really, really disappointed people who was.
Well, yeah, but the problem with Obama that we all kind of figured out is that he was just the best grifter.
No, he knew.
He was he knew how to
angled out of the. Like,
he was a generationally talented that. Like he was like in terms of charismatic figures and whatever. Like there's a reason that people lined up around him.
No, like Hillary Clinton and John Edwards, he knew exactly what he needed to do, which is go to the left of both of them and like stick with it, at least until the general. Like he is the reason why people say that that people are going to pivot like right in the general. Because I actually don't have a lot of great examples beforehand. John Kerry never pivoted right because he was never that left to begin with. It was just I'm not George Bush. Just like this election is I'm not Donald Trump. Al Gore, I was a little bit too young, but also I don't remember any Al Gore's platform.
Right.
Yeah.
It was like nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I voted for Gore. I was in the Marine Corps, and I voted for him.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Like I was Clinton's
United States Marine Corps.
Honestly, I can't remember his policies either.
Because I know he started doing, he didn't do the environmentalism thing until like years later.
No, not so years later.
Yeah.
It was seriously. Yeah, I can't remember one policy plan. I can't remember Kerry either, and I'm not going for Kerry.
Kerry's policy plan, I think he wanted to limit the amount of troops in Iraq, and
Jesus Christ.
it wasn't George Bush. Really
Well, blue no matter who, guys.
Yeah.
It fucking rocks. It
Yeah.
gets your ass kicked in, get your teeth kicked in every time.
The Kerry thing is still just incredibly wild to me, just because like he's married to the Heinz lady, who's the inheritor of that fortune. What a thing. Money in politics.
I'm trying to find the piece, or at least I think it's actually taken down from the internet. But there was a piece that Adolph Reed wrote in 2006. I mean, sorry, in 1996 about Barack Obama.
Oh, yeah.
And he, again, like, there's a lot of people that will take away from Adolf himself, but essentially what he ended up doing is that he kind of like nailed the Obama phenomenon a decade before it even had a chance to take place, and it was sort of like he predicted the next step of what neoliberalism would be, and it was essentially Obama that he kind of like was backed by these, nonprofit, these sort of like, he had this sort of
He was
community.
back on Wall Street.
Yeah. But initially,
Forget the votes. That's what drove Hillary Clinton out. When her money dried up.
A lot of nonprofits are essentially just
His money loan.
Yeah, low tax shelters for Wall Street.
We talked about that.
Sorry.
go on.
We're talking about nonprofits. Nonprofits paying shitty.
Anyway, it sort of like pegged the idea of this sort of like image that Obama put forward, which was this sort of like community-based person fundamentally his message was, we gotta pull ourselves up by our bootstraps, but he kind of had this like
nice way.
Yeah, right, exactly. He had this sort of like this feeling of empathy and this feeling of sort of like broad commonality, that was in the end bullshit, but it was convincing enough of a sales job.
Yeah, he kicked off his campaign with a book. It was The Audacity of Hope.
Yeah.
Like it was.
And that's again.
How he immigrated to America and made it great.
Say what you will about Reed in a lot of senses, but he was the one that was the most that saw that the soonest, right?
I voted for Jill Stein twice. I admit that on the show.
I voted for it in 2016. I wish I could get that vote back.
Yeah.
Because that's what we talked about, like, when I joined the DSA, because the DSA does things.
Yeah.
Like,
the Green Party doesn't do anything.
Nothing.
No, the Green Party sucks.
It sucks.
Oh, man.
Much,
It's so bad.
Let's talk shit about the Green Party.
How am I looking on time?
I really love
starting
their
to
platform.
zone
That's
out.
what's so disappointing about it, is that, like, their platform is way better than literally anybody who's in it. Like,
Yeah.
if you've ever read their platform, it's fantastic. You should read it sometime.
Yeah, but like, do they have any kind of juice to implement it? Like, well, you can fucking like draw up your fucking fantasy utopia anytime you want.
Bernie Sanders, excuse me, does exactly the same thing. His whole campaign is a platform.
No, there's an organizing base for that. I mean, there was actually so I would say the biggest difference between, and I would say that probably Sanders went too far.
Mm-hmm.
And, if we're gonna get like super critical, and again, this is not a post-mortem. This is still an ongoing fight.
It could be.
But I guess my point here is that like there is an organizing apparatus behind the Sanders campaign.
Yeah, it's not just that. I'm being facetious. I'm just saying that like his emphasis is on policies. And way more so than like if you ask people who support Joe Biden like to name like two of his policies.
Name one thing that Joe Biden cares about.
I can't think of anything. Like he
region across the aisle, the Republicans, Jack.
Yeah, people seem to think that he supports Medicare for all, which is just wild to me.
It's gobsmacking, honestly.
He supports the opposite of it. He wants to like actually take some Medicare away.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
he's basically got the same policy platform with this Pete Buttigieg. You just got better rhetoric.
Essentially, yeah. Pete Buttigieg at least made you kind of think it was cool.
That's when my cynicism,
no.
that's when my doomerism kicks in, because you can literally, not being a dead horse, but like somebody like that who's like, well, he's for XYZ, and I could literally pull up a clip.
A completely empty
vessel. By his own mouth, and they'd be like, nuh-uh.
And actually, probably part of this might be the hot take to leave on. But like, I guess if you could throw like one major critique Bernie's way, is that he's not empty enough of a vessel. Like he's specific enough, like super duper, like not necessarily in the sense that he was talking about how he would pay for whatever he's doing.
Yeah.
But in the sense that he will, like the plan that he will put forward is like so specifically geared towards a working class audience,
Mhm.
and
It's hard for anybody who doesn't at least identify themselves as working class to be able to like get what's in it for them.
right, the problem became that it was written down enough
Yeah.
on paper to the point where people can say, "Oh, well,
People
what
are
about
trying to
this?"
read. I'm sorry.
Well,
So
that's true.
They're not trying to go to
That's
school.
true, but also at the same time, like once you have enough shit written down, like you can basically have that turned against you.
Yeah,
I get
You
that.
know, if
Just
there's not like
specifics.
consistency with what's written down and what's down on the paper,
And even if it is written down.
and
like,
even if it
Go ahead. We're about to say the exact same damn thing. Go ahead.
well,
I know exactly what
I'm
you're
just
saying.
gonna say that like if it wasn't like he wasn't or he isn't consistent with those values and those specifics that he put on the paper, but like the idea that there's so much there is easy to turn your brain off.
Okay, so we weren't going to say the same thing. My thing was going to be that again, people aren't trying to go to school.
That's true.
People are dumb. America's dumb.
I'm fucking stupid, man.
And so it doesn't matter how many times has Bernie like come out with exactly how he's going to pay for it, quote air quote it.
Never
And then-
actually. That was the best part.
Huh?
The best part about Bernie was that he never said that he was going to pay. Like he never said how he was going to pay for it, other than taxing the wealthy. The problem
No,
with
it's like-
Warren was that she came out and she had like this convoluted plan for how she was going to pay
No,
for
he's
stuff.
got a whole no.
He
like,
does actually have it out of paper.
He's got
always
it
had
down.
like-
It's a
it's down on his website.
speculative tax on. It's
On
a
wealth.
tax on Wall Street speculation.
Yeah, that's
speculation
fine.
is-
And
That's
how
good.
it's
Trading.
down like to the T, like how it's going to get paid for.
Yeah, that's
but then
good.
it doesn't fucking matter because every time you get him in front of a Jake Tapper, it's the first thing they say.
They
How you
did
gonna
that-
pay
they-
for that?
they did
How you
that
gonna pay
today.
for that? How you gonna pay for that?
They did that. He had that rally in Detroit where
Exactly.
he got a bunch of like doctors to talk about the coronavirus for a while.
Today.
And one of the reporters asked him like, "How are we going to pay for this vaccine?"
See what I mean?
So one of the doctors
Yeah.
flipped out on the reporter. It was great. Like, but-
Oh really? I need
yeah.
to watch that. It made me feel
Yeah,
better.
no, really.
Yeah, you must be.
But see, it just
You're
doesn't-
closer to this tonight. I was in the
I'm
emergency
in it.
room all day.
It just
so.
doesn't matter. Like
Yeah.
you need
No, it doesn't.
you need an Obama huckster. You need a little Trump. You need a little showbiz. Like you do
I just
to
think
reach these people.
he's got to stop saying like millionaires and billionaires and start saying the Chuck Schumers and Michael Bloombergs of the world. Like he's got to put some sort of faces to these names so to make it real to people. Like think about the time that Michael Bloomberg put your family in jail. You know,
Right.
Something
Right.
like that. Think
Joe
about-
Biden
Make it
cannot
personal.
remember his own damn name.
Yeah.
This is who you want to
Actually,
elect for
so
president.
Yeah.
I'm
here's
dead
another
serious.
thing
I'm not
that
trying to be
actually, I was actually disappointed in this.
Oh, Biden, Obama, Democrat.
Yeah.
When Bloomberg was in the primary for that like flash of a minute, which felt like forever.
Oh god, that was so good.
I actually, and I actually said this on this program. Like this was a great opportunity to say, well, this motherfucker right here.
Yeah.
And I say this as a teacher. This motherfucker right here has actually spent hundreds of millions of dollars,
Mhm.
and I'm talking about how I would talk to other teachers. This motherfucker right here has spent hundreds of millions of dollars to implement programs that make your life measurably worse in ways that you can identify.
Yeah.
Talking about testing,
Yeah.
talking about teacher evaluation,
Mhm.
talking about all of these things that are like literally the bane of education
Mhm.
if you're a teacher right now. And in those debates that happened on TV, didn't come up. Not one time. 0 times.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Bernie is a generally nice person, and that's kind of a problem. I don't know. He's lovely. He's
What happens to nice guys?
he
Where do we
cares about
finish?
people. Yeah. He genuinely that was reading a good thing. Like he probably when he was a young senator, Biden probably did him a favor or two,
Mhm.
and now he just thinks nicely of Biden all the time, so he doesn't feel like saying things like,
Yeah.
"Oh, Biden has dementia." You know, it's
That's a limitation.
yeah, and I appreciate that. That's one of the things
You-
that actually
That's a
draws
human
people-
limitation.
You cannot say like my good friend and then also is an existential threat.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So you cannot those things cannot coexist.
yeah.
Yeah.
So you have to go in on people because that's one of the things okay, so if
Oh.
you're listening to this now,
Mhm.
like one of the
Hopefully
narratives-
we're by the way being like overly pessimistic. Everybody's laughing at us for how
Yeah,
negative
no,
we've
great,
been.
yeah.
But go on.
one of the narratives is they want to have they want to change the rules of the debate so Biden can like sit down and take a nap and answer questions from
if he
audience
snores, that would
members-
actually be good.
audience members and not actual moderators. I say the biggest change, forget that. Like I want Biden standing like, no, don't change it. But worse than that is them squeezing Tulsi out, changing the rules at the last minute so Tulsi Gabbard can't get on there. Now, I do not like Tulsi Gabbard.
Actually,
I do not like anything she stands
Nobody
for.
likes Tulsi Gabbard at
She's a
all.
weird fascist.
Yeah.
The whole deal. But what she does know how to do is bring a knife to a motherfucking knife
she pissed off
fight.
everybody off by
And that's what Bernie will not do.
well, I will say this though. I think that
That's the thing. If they put Tulsi on stage with Joe Biden,
Yeah.
Tulsi might
Yeah,
win the
but
goddamn
she-
nomination.
Yeah.
well, here's the thing. Well, I'm actually fine with her not winning the nomination. I mean,
I know what you mean, but
but the other thing
Jesus.
is that like, if it did come down to heads up 1v1 Biden versus Bernie, and they have to be on stage for 3 hours at the same time,
Mhm.
sharing a stage. It doesn't matter if he's laid out on a litter. Like, Biden's gonna melt down.
I think it's possible. I mean,
the levers of power these people have and the way they'll protect him,
absolutely.
they'll
I mean,
spin it in the media no matter what happened,
We know that. already.
and then and then people buy that shit. We're not in like. I'm sorry to be such a doomer, but we're not in like They Live stage where people will be like, they're lying to us. This isn't the end of Running Man, where people are like, don't believe Cadre TV anymore.
Right.
Like they fucking do. They believe that bullshit. And they just manufactured consent to give this man the delegate. That's exactly what happened. And it's just, I'm terrified of where we're at.
Yeah, I mean, Biden historically, even just in this race, has like diminished every time he's shown up on TV. Like you can look at his poll numbers.
They're hiding Biden.
They just
Hiding
go,
Biden.
they go up and down like real fast because like the less people see him, the less it's the better. But I don't know. All Biden really has to do is not mess up. Is that's the real problem? Is that like Biden just has to manage to stay lucid for these 3 hours. He's probably gonna have a bunch of uppers.
That's a big ass.
Yeah. They're
Um,
gonna put meth in him.
And you know Bernie could pull it off. I think if he did go really negative, if he started listing out like all of the major gaffes that have happened in just the last little bit, if he started talking about how Kamala Harris called him out on busing, now he supports him, Biden. Pete Buttigieg called him out for being old, and now he supports Biden. Cory Booker called him out for being old.
Boo, Cory
Also
Booker forever.
or something. And now he's supporting Biden. Like he needs to talk about how like this is what I'm talking about.
This is an establishment.
These are the
That's
establishment
that's
who
what Trump
hate
would do.
you.
that's right.
Yeah,
That's what Trump would do.
it's the Trump thing. And honestly, I swear to God, it's like pulling teeth with liberals to talk to them. It's like Trump won the election.
He had a strategy and he executed.
Listen,
He figured out how to do it. He took on,
Right.
he legitimately took on the Republican establishment. Like, people don't really think very hard about that because they don't like the Republican establishment. But this guy came out of nowhere. He refused to say that he was going to pledge to be a Republican, and he won.
There's a great juxtaposition on the debate where they had, excuse me, the $1,000 tickets for the debate, the last debate,
Mhm.
where people
The Bloomberg
the
debate.
Bloomberg debate,
Yeah.
where Bernie said something about Bloomberg and weird boos, like they were so weird.
Boo.
And Bernie went, really? It was a genuine, really?
Yeah.
Like, really, you're booing me?
Yeah.
They did the same thing to Trump.
Uh-huh.
And it was like...
He worked
said
the crowd
something about
better.
Ted Cruz, and Trump said, oh, these are all his billionaire backers right
Yeah.
here.
And that would have been an opportunity for Bernie to say is that, like, I'm funded by you, the people at home, the poor people, the working class is up here funding me. I don't take any of the money from the people here in the audience, and that's why they're booing me here today, because they don't want you to win.
Exactly.
And I don't know. It's a killer instinct you kind of need for politics.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. He's just... I mean, it's a guy... I think it's a guy who didn't want to run for president in 2016.
Yeah.
And I don't really think he wanted to run now. But again, there's no other option. Like, he
Yeah.
has to just...
There's so many people who wanted him to do it.
Yeah.
fine.
There's,
Hmm.
That's it. That's all I got.
Mhm.
I'm faded.
All right. Well, that was a wild ride.
Mhm.
You should be like Jake, one of the best
Everybody
people in the
should.
world, and everybody should be like Jake, and everybody should give to the Patreon. goodmorningcomrade.com/goodmorningpatreon. That's not the only reason you're good. That's just one of the reasons.
Yes.
You can also check us out online, facebook.com/goodmorningcomrade, Instagram, Good Morning Comrade, Twitter, @ComradeMorning. You can follow me online at Eminent Prof. Anybody else want to shout out their Twitter handles? You want to shout out yours?
Goodness gracious, please never follow me. I'm supposed to quit Twitter, but
Oh.
these politics have not let me stop.
Don't quit the DMs, okay?
Yeah.
Quit the timeline. Don't quit the DMs.
Alright.
And you can listen to us every Tuesday on WHIV LP New Orleans 102.3 every Tuesday at 8 o'clock. And I don't shout this out too often, but y'all should definitely listen to me on the third Monday of every month. That would be starting starting in April. That would be the I'm doing the thing where I'm checking the thing while I'm announcing it. The 20th of April, I do cover Mark Allen's spot on health is a human right.
That's 420. That's weed day.
That is yeah. Well, let's talk about. Hey, Jake, you want to join us to talk about weed that day?
Man, no.
No?
I don't actually smoke weed.
You can talk about weed. You don't have to smoke
you
weed.
can talk about weed, sure.
But yeah, every third Monday of the month,
Hey.
check out me filling in for Mark Allen on health is a human right 102.3 WHIV LP New Orleans. Anyway. Anything you want to throw in there, Jake?
Do crimes.
Don't do crimes. Robert, anything that you want to... Okay. PD, you want to throw anything? Okay, cool. All right, love you. Bye.